The Russia-Ukraine war has entered fresh phase of escalation with an unprecedented 12-hour attack on Kyiv. Russia has scaled up its offensive on Ukraine, leaving Kyiv and European nations on their toes with fear of expansion of war beyond Ukraine. Throughout the intervening night of 27th and 28th of September, swarms of Shahed-styled drones were spotted in Kyiv, Zaporizhia and Sumy regions. Air raid sirens blared even in areas far from the front line. Ukraine says 500 drones and over 40 Russian missiles swarmed the country, with capital Kyiv being worst hit. Now, according to Ukraine, Russia also scrambled Tu-95 bombers and MiG-31K bombers during the attack. At least 4 people were reportedly killed, with several residential and non-residential buildings catching fire in Kyiv. The latest activity comes amid increased tension and rising fears of a wider conflict spilling into Europe. During the latest Russian offensive, Poland closed airspace of its 2 provinces bordering Ukraine. Poland's Air Force said it deployed Polish and Allied aircraft to secure its airspace. Flight tracking service Flight Radar 24 said Poland closed airspace near its southeastern cities of Lublin and Rzeszów due to unplanned military activity related to ensuring state security. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy called Russian attack vile and vowed to respond to the attack. Finland president said Russia is targeting civilians in cold blood. The EU and NATO are flexing their muscle in the light of Russia's alleged airspace violations and drone sightings. President Trump has backed calls to shoot down Russian planes that violate NATO airspace. NATO has announced that it was upgrading its mission in the Baltic Sea with an air defense frigate and other assets. Defense ministers from about 10 EU nations have vowed to build a drone wall. EU leaders are set to meet for an informal European Council in Copenhagen on Wednesday. The agenda is to discuss how to strengthen Europe's common defense and the support for Ukraine. But before the high-stakes meeting, Denmark has announced to ban all civilian drone flights across the country for the week. According to Denmark, unidentified drones were observed near military installations overnight on Saturday. In neighboring Norway, police say they are investigating possible drone sightings near the Åland Air Force Base in the central region, the main base for Norway's F-35 jets. Russia has denied all the allegations. Speaking at the United Nations General Assembly, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warned NATO and the European Union that any aggression against Russia will be met with a decisive response.
Threats of force against Russia, accused of practically planning an attack on the North Atlantic Alliance and the European Union, are becoming increasingly common. President Putin has repeatedly debunked such provocations. Russia has never had and does not have such intentions, but any aggression against my country will be met with a decisive response.
If we talk about alleged Russian violations and drone sightings this month, Poland had detected drones in its airspace on September 10th. Romania also detected drones in the country's airspace, which were tracked down by 2 F-16 jets. On September 19th, Russian MiG-31 aircraft spent 12 minutes in Estonia's airspace, prompting a response from NATO aircraft. Norway has also detected drones multiple times, with recent sightings reported near the Åland base. Latvia and Germany have also reported similar sightings. September 22nd, Copenhagen's airport was closed for hours. Drones were also spotted near 5 other places in Denmark, forcing closure of airspace over Aalborg Airport. On September 26th, drones were spotted at a naval base in Sweden and Lithuania. However, Russia has denied or not owned up to most of these allegations. Mr. Ben Aris is a founder and editor-in-chief of BNE IntelliNews and also former Moscow bureau chief for the Daily Telegraph. He's now joining us live from Berlin. Mr. Aris, good to see you, and thank you very much for making time for us. President Zelenskyy says this latest attack by Russia was vile, and Russia seems unrelenting with their drone warfare. What's the message here?
It's an escalation. Putin is turning the screws, and he has been since May, when the ceasefire talks really got underway, led by the White House, led by Trump. Putin's response to the beginning of the talks, the groups were meeting in various places like Riyadh, Istanbul. However, accompanying that, Putin turned the screws by tripling the number of drones and missiles that he fires at Ukraine, hitting targets. This weekend, again, Kyiv was hit. 2 dozen people were killed, including some children. And the point is to keep Kyiv under pressure, as Putin's being very uncompromising. The so-called ceasefire or peace deal that he's offering is basically a capitulation. And at the same time, it's a response because Ukraine has now developed some of its own cruise missiles, and it also is now targeting economic assets, mainly oil refineries, inside Russia. So we're seeing a steady escalation in the destruction and the violence that's going on in this war.
Mr. Aris, the EU and NATO are flexing their muscle in the light of Russia's alleged airspace violations and also drone sightings. Russia says these nations are worried over nothing. Do you think measures taken by the EU or NATO are good enough to deter Russia?
A two-part answer to that. First of all, of course they should be worried. I mean, the latest development of this escalation is now that Russia is clearly probing NATO's air defenses, and it's gone from striking Ukraine with missiles to flying drones over EU countries like Poland. Started with Poland, and then Romania was the next day, and then we had 3 Russian jets fly over Estonia, and then Copenhagen, the airport was closed down because of a reported Russian drone threat, which was later dismissed. And this should be very worrying. And the second part to your question is no, they're not ready. The Polish incident showed that we had 19 drones, reconnaissance drones, unarmed, no explosives on board, that cost $10,000 each. Poland spent, in the course of a few hours, 1.2 billion euros shooting them down, because the only thing it has is expensive Patriot Sidewinders. And what they need, what they're facing, is a swarm, hundreds of drones coming across the border should Russia invade. And they have nothing to take that down. They'll run out of Patriots within hours. And they need to get ready. So this has provoked this talk of a drone war. And then we've had the Polish foreign minister in Kyiv, and the Ukrainians are offering to help. Basically, Ukraine comes into its own, and it has this technology, it has the production, it's making 2 million drones plus. It's going to make 4 million this year, and they're going to sell that to the EU. But EU's been caught napping. I mean, it should have put all of this stuff in place 3 years ago, and now it's scrambling to catch up.
All right, Mr. Ben Aris, it's good to see you. Thank you very much for talking to us today.